Risk and Resilience Through My Eyes by Trang Nguyen, Vanessa Gutierrez, and Summer Adana. We are going to exploring the common and unique risk and protective factors of children in high, middle, and low-income countries. We will talk about the life of three children: Koen Tapai, 11 years old boy from Australia; Alfredo Carrasco, 11 years old boy from Colombia; and Trinh Doan, 7 years old girl from Vietnam. Not a single child in this world is the same, but many children share similar risk and protective factors. For example, regardless of where children come from, such as low, high, or middle-income countries, they deal with risk and protective factors that are both unique and common. This happens because the way children go through life events differ between each person. Yes, the life event can be similar. Koen, Alfredo, and Trinh share the same risk factors, including living in poverty, child abuse, and parental substance abuse, and they all deal with it differently because of their different environments. The common protective factor that they share, including having supportive relationships, understanding the meaning of life, and having effective coping skills, allow them all to persevere through the tough times they may be experiencing. Koen Tapai is an 11 years old Aboriginal child from the foothills of Adelaide, Australia. He lived with his father and older sister on a piece of land that was taken from them by cattle ranchers. Koen rides his bicycle at a nearby town that has terrible funding. After school, he helps his dad with any leftover household chores. He enjoys playing outside and running around the open fields with his sister. His mother taught him to speak in their native language, Kaurna, but since her passing, his father does not allow him to practice it anymore. Koen faces many challenges. He and his family live in poverty because cattle ranchers stole their land, and his father had no choice but to work for them. The lack of support from his dad, who is often abusing alcohol and other substances, impacts him every day. There are days that his father has bad days and takes it out on Koen and his sister. But when they try to seek medical attention, they are turned away for being Aboriginal children. Caregivers discriminate against them, and it makes them feel unimportant. The constant prejudice had an effect on his mental health. Koen walks around with new bruises on his body every other day, but other Australians do not bat an eye when they see him. It's a constant struggle for poor little Koen. He often feels helpless. Koen has a great relationship with his older sister, who helped him get through the pain that his father put them through. She is his most supportive relationship. He sees life in a different way because of his roots. Being an Aboriginal child, he dreams differently. He has goals and ideas of things he wants to pursue in life. He has learned how to deal with the trauma of his mother passing away as an 8-year-old boy by practicing disengagement coping strategy to avoid the pain. Koen uses his identity as a protector and finds comfort in being surrounded by members of his community. All of these factors have allowed him to keep a positive view in life despite every hardship he faces as an 11-year-old boy in Australia. Alfredo Carrasco is an 11-year-old boy who lives in Bogota, Colombia, with his 3 younger siblings and parents. During his free time, Alfredo loves to walk around and explore new parts of his home by going on hike and trail. Every morning, he and his 3 younger siblings walk to and from school, stopping by local food stands to grab a bite to eat on their journey. Alfredo days are typically filled with chores around the house and watching his younger siblings while his parents look for work. Alfredo's parents rely on him a lot to care for his siblings and manage the household. Alfredo's life decisions are ultimately chosen due to his environment. He is expected to use his free time to maintain his household because his parents are seeking any work opportunity they can get. A lot of times, Alfredo is expected to serve his parents and siblings before finishing his needs, whether that's personal goals like fitness or educational responsibilities such as homework. If Alfredo is expected to serve his family and he chooses not to, his father may strike him with a broom stating, "Son, listen to me." Being struck with a broom is pretty normal in Alfredo's family, but sometimes the hits can be much worse. As a way to cope with the economic stress of having 4 kids, Alfredo's father, Jamie, will drink a few beers from time to time as a way to relieve his stress. Alfredo knows that if he acts out against his parents' wishes when his father had drank a few beers, he is going to get hit with something much harder than a broom. Alfredo has chosen to run away a few times, but he knows that children his age are usually more protected at home than in the street. Alfredo, along with a few of Alfredo's classmates, chose to run away from their parents, and they ended up missing for a few months. They ended up being kidnapped and trained to kill government officials and civilians who seem to be a threat to the local cartels. That's a risk that Alfredo is not willing to take anymore. Alfredo seeks much enjoyment from attending school with his friends. Even though Alfredo does not get much freedom at home, he really enjoys the minimal amount of opportunity he gets to engage with his peers at school. In many ways, he views school as an opportunity to escape the responsibility of being a caregiver at such a young age. Hanging around children at his age allows him to escape his reality at home life and keep him motivated to work hard for a better future. Unlike some of the wealthier kids at his school, Alfredo does not have many opportunities for success except in academic. Luckily, Alfredo has a few close connections with the staff at his school, which allows him to receive support if he needs it. Despite all of Alfredo's life experience, he has a clear understanding that life is not always what it seems, and that you often have to deal with things to get a more positive side. Alfredo is ultimately very fortunate for his relationships, moral standards, and community support. Trinh Doan is a 7-year-old orphan girl born and raised in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Her father passed away because of substance abuse, and right after that, her mom left her for grandparents when he was just 2 years old. She lived with her grandparents in poverty. Her grandfather is 75 years old, and her grandmother is 73. Their living now is based on $50 per month support from the government for the poor. She is now going to school, but she is struggling in school since she has to go to collect plastic bottles and cans at night and has no time to study at home. Trinh Doan is living in extreme poverty with her grandparents and is suffering from malnutrition, which is the reason of growth failure and stunting, and impaired intellectual development. She is 11 years old now, but much shorter and very skinny compared to other children at her age. Also, it takes a lot of time for her to learn new things. As growing up, she shows symptoms of depression as she was a victim of maltreatment when she was a toddler. Her father threw a tantrum and slapped her head, arms, and legs whenever he got drunk. She also showed irritability and anxiety symptoms since her father was a substance abuser. As she walks around the restaurant in the area to collect plastic bottles and cans, the restaurant owner uses her as a labor to wash the dishes for them so that they don't need to spend money to pay, just give her some food instead. As a result, She is now also suffering from back pain and she has to lift the heavy dishes up to the shelves. Besides all the risk factors that Jin has to face, Jin still has her grandmother, who is always loving and caring for her. She always encouraged Jin to go to school. All the money that got from the government, she always tries saving as much as she can to have money to pay for Jin's education. Whenever Jin shows depression symptoms, she always listens to and takes Jin to the social service to get the help needed, even though her health condition is not good, as she is 73 years old. As growing up, Jin knew her life's meaning is to be a good person, so that her grandparents do not need to worry about her. She always tries helping others whatever she can. She is really happy once she can do something to help others, and that helps in lessening her depression disorder. Whenever Jin feels worried, scared, or nervous, she chooses to go out looking for other children in the village to play with, or talk to her grandmother as her coping mechanism. By that way, she can regulate her emotion and lower level of stress. Jin's mother found a good job in Hanoi City and is able to send some money for grandparents to raise her. Therefore, Jin does not need to go collecting cans anymore and has more time to study at home. Children all over the world are born into many different ways of life, whether that be influenced by religion, traditions, or social or economic status. Although every place in the world will always be comparable to another, the children revealed in this scenario come from many different backgrounds and all have experienced risk factors that could damage their potential of being positive member of society. For instance, Jinran's family is very poor, leaving some responsibility on her to provide for her and her grandparents. As a result, Jin is forced into child labor to help make ends meet. While Jin is working endless hours to support her grandparents, Alfredo is faced daily with extreme violence as he is trained to kill anyone seen as a threat to local drinks. Even on the other side of the world, Colin experienced hardships in his community. Colin experienced extreme discrimination in some of the places where he should feel the most safe, in the care of doctors. They also experience unique protective factors that help them get through the hard days. Colin finds solace in his own identity and community. Alfredo has community acceptance and uses school as a gateway from the trouble happening around him, and Jin has migrated parent remittance and goes to her family for comfort. Although the three children's life is threatened by many risk factors such as poverty, child abuse, and parental substance abuse, they are able to bounce back as they have supported adults who always help them and their own skill to overcome difficulty, challenges, and adversity. Is resilient. Each child from the three countries all had their own struggle as a child, but all ultimately shared the common factors as well. Some additional community resources that could help them would be finding a support group in their school or community center. This could help the children find other people who are experiencing similar troubles and can help them feel like they are not alone. I think creating a system that would allow children to connect with other children their age with similar backgrounds from different countries would help so that they can see things from a different perspective. Perhaps Cohen can write a letter to Alfredo and Alfredo write a letter to Jin and stay in touch for a few years. I also think that if each one of the children sought out a therapist in their own community, it could help them come to terms with their specific life situations and find closer and acceptance in who they are and where they come from.